talk to us a little bit more about your second innings now. You're wearing 5 different hats: education, digital media, Swades Foundation, you have your sports leagues, and you are an investor in various startups. So how are you thinking about these? And especially in the context, because in your book, you talk a lot about how fascinated you are with scale, in business as well as in life. So in that context, if you could talk to us.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether everyone's really interested in what I'm doing
I'm sure they are.
for the next 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. But I'll try and keep it brief. I think between February of 2012 and December of 2014, I'd made a commitment that I would consolidate the 2 entities, and so I was running it as a full-time managing director. For the first time in my life, I was working for someone, and I can't tell you how incredible an experience it was for me to work for the Walt Disney Company, even for those 2 years. Because suddenly all your learnings get into a different perspective. Yes, of course, there's structure, there's a large corporate this thing, and I think they were extremely generous with me to leave India to be as entrepreneurial as it could be during that period, and I'm extremely grateful for them to facilitate that. But you also learn an incredible amount of lessons in terms of scale, brand, how important value creation is, how important scale is, and how important brand building is. But as soon as I realized that I needed to go out and do something on my own, I think it took me about 10 days, because during that period, the only thing I could do was venture capital and private equity, because I was running full-time a company even larger than I was running with UTV. And those were interesting days, because I think, it was something that I felt I wanted to look at with entrepreneurs. And I think for those 2 years, we did some incredible investments in private equity, all on our own, not as a fund structure. But in 10 days after one moved out of media and entertainment, I think it was my longest holiday that I took from pre-Christmas to post-New Year. My daughter and wife remind me it was the longest holiday, so I should remember that. And I think when we came back, I was very clear that I'm not an investor and I'm not a mentor by profession. I'm a doer and I'm an entrepreneur, and I need to get back, roll up my sleeves, and create something of my own. And I looked at various businesses. The only thing I was very clear about in my second innings was that I didn't want to personally run something. I think my strengths were more where I could work with co-founders. So for the next 9 months, I wanted to identify businesses that I could build for the next 10 to 15 years. My criterion was high impact, very disruptive. That means you could think of something different to do in the whole thought process and build them at scale. And all I could do was go out and find, so it took me 9 months to a year to find some incredible co-founders to start some of our businesses, one in sport. But things happen in a serendipitous manner, because it's not always in that context. And I'd identified 4 or 5 sectors and then narrowed down on education, on digital media, and sports, which actually started more as a hobby, but now has turned into a bit of a profession, because we took kabaddi at that particular stage. But to me, it was exactly the same DNA that I think of everything here. Because if you look at that sport, it's not a sport that anyone is going to, Anand Mahindra sat on a dinner table with my wife and said, my brother-in-law's been wanting to do this kabaddi league for about 6 or 7 years, and I got no takers. And so Zarina popped up and said, I think you should talk to Ronnie. He's as mad as you are, and he might be interested in backing something like this. And she told me that on the phone in the night I was overseas. Before Anand could call me, I called him and I said, hey, you're doing this kabaddi league, and I'm very interested. He said, are you serious? Because I've never got this kind of call before. So one thing led to another, and then Star came on board, and a lot of other great franchise people came on board. But if you look at that game, to us it was interesting because we were completely being disruptive. Here was a game that otherwise everyone is familiar with, but it was pretty much, it was played on matti, and here we wanted to move it to a mat. Because nobody wants to see filthy looking men after 4 or 5 minutes. Second, you want to see that on television and you can't. So to us, 3 or 4 factors. You take it out and put it on a mat. We actually groom our team. Anup Kumar was our captain. We've given him the right crew cut, the right Oakley glasses, and whatever else. And 30% of viewership on kabaddi today is women. Cricket has 90% men, 10% women. Kabaddi is the highest women watched sport in India, and there's got to be a reason for that. So we have to do a lot of stuff as far as that is concerned. And finally, we're an action nation. There's a fist fight on the road between 2 guys who double park. 40 people will gather. So to make kabaddi into a gladiator sport, which is how one wanted to term it, and it's 40 minutes. I challenge anyone to watch it on TV, and I challenge you to switch channels in that 20 minutes when it's going on. It's so unprecedented. So to me, being disruptive about something has been extremely important. I think what we're doing in online education today it's a very tough road because our target audience and assumption today is, and the statistics are that 150 million people should be in post-graduation courses today in India. We keep saying we're the youngest nation of the world, and I think it has its liabilities as much as it has its assets. Only 25 million people are in post-graduation. 125 million people are not even doing their post-graduation. Of the 25 million people, I would say less than 10 million are in right places of where they want to get. Now, if you look at that as a challenge, almost 100 out of the 150 million people don't have a choice of wanting to do that because socioeconomic reasons force you to take on a job pretty early in your life. And therefore, to me, online is such an incredible solution for India. That's what I believe in. That's our vision, and we need to push it. Now, most people think nobody's going to pay for it. It's flimsy. I'm sitting in my room and even my parents ask me, what are you doing there? You should be going to college, and why aren't you going somewhere to a place to learn? But look at some of the clear aspects. For what we need to do, we'll have to build thousands of universities in brick and mortar, which will take us a decade. India doesn't have a decade to do that. Number two, we don't have trained teachers in this country. And again, if you want to change that ecosystem, it's 20 years, not even 10 years. But in online, I can take 10 hours of great teachers and make curriculum classes that will make it sound like it's a month of work in terms of that. And third, for everyone who needs to work and learn, online is the best way to go. And I can't think of a bigger and a resonant market for online education. And it's a humongous challenge. Because for all the three opportunities that I sized up here, I can tell you there are about 20 challenges that we're facing with every single day, but we're going to combat that. So I think I'm excited about those, and I think the biggest one, obviously, for us is what we've taken in the social sector. It was something that I think we wanted to scale up. We had a goal that almost 10% of everything that we made every year would go in some form to social causes for the last 20 years, and so we're working in various places. And I remember my board of directors asked me, saying, but if you don't make profit in a year, what are you going to do with your social aspirations since you're earmarking 10%? And I said, we'll figure it out in that year, not to worry. But when we kind of exited the business, both Zarina and I introspected and said, what do you want to do when we scale up? And the organization at that time was called Share. And in the first few months when we were starting to work in our rural villages, there were about 6 people who came from Howard who were going to spend 3 days in our village. And they were sitting on our veranda. And both of us looked at each other and says, this is like our movie Swades, where Shah Rukh Khan comes from being a NASA scientist to his grandmom in the village and then lights the bulb. And that's how we that's the day we said, well, I think we should rename our foundation the Swades Foundation. So I called Ashutosh and Shah Rukh. They were all extremely excited and said, go for it. But I think in rural India today, philanthropy in India is still not viewed, because I think it's a challenge. For most people, it's about cutting a check. I think we were very clear from day one, the day we decided that we wanted to do this, that we wanted to be active and we wanted to make a physical foundation where my wife is giving 100% of her time, I spend 40% of my time